Neuro-inclusive workplaces can boost morale by 89%. So it's really something that we need to be thinking about, making those small accommodations that are going to include neurodivergent individuals. So whether that's considering a shared hot desk scenario, or the noise in the environment, or the tools that we provide, it's really something that we should be thinking about. Let's start then by talking about reasonable accommodations that an organisation could and should be making. And before we begin, let's not forget that there is law related to this. So your HR departments should have policies with regards to everything we're talking about today. In the UK, that is the Equality Act, and in America, it's Americans with Disability Acts. But there will be a law local to where you are from. So please think about this, and I encourage you to look up that information. Let's start first by talking about the environment. And you may recall from earlier episodes that a neurodivergent person can face challenges around sensory distractions, so anything relating to the five senses. So let's think about minimising those distractions by offering the option of a quiet space, by providing noise cancelling headphones if it's requested, ensuring that any hot desks are kept clean, tidy, minimised of disruption from the previous person. And let's just really be inclusive and accepting when a person comes to us with a need in relation to the environment. That is a reasonable adjustment that we can make. Then let's think about equipment. So things like providing an ergonomic chair that is comfortable will help a neurodivergent person not be distracted by a sensory feeling that's causing them discomfort. Also, providing dual displays can help with visual and being able to work across different applications to see and work with information in different formats. Then we've got to think about the quietness of the area that they're in. Now, offices can get noisy. There's lots of people, there's lots going on, but it's all about trying to minimise that, trying to provide areas across your business that are quieter areas. And also being flexible in how and where people work. So being able to offer working from home can be a huge advantage to a business that is hiring and recruiting neurodivergent individuals. Now, a lot of neurodivergent people think in different ways and therefore require different styles of communication. First of all, we want communication to be clear to the person receiving the communication. And let's not forget, communication is always two-way. There is a person that is providing information and a person that is receiving it. And there is an ability for the interpretation in the middle to cause some of the messaging to get lost in translation. So it's really the benefit of the business to provide information in different types of formats that are going to help that person receiving it, regardless of their learning style or neurodivergence. So things like providing a bullet point list instead of heavy text, or providing information in sequential headings to help chunk that information can help a person to retain it much easier and can help with stresses on working memory. Providing visual formats, so presenting information in a PowerPoint slide or on a Miro board or project board that has visual elements can sometimes be an easier way to interpret that information and that communication. And ultimately, it allows for the best outcomes for all. Then let's think about advance notice. So day to day can be very, very busy, and it's very easy to quickly put a meeting in the diary or move something last minute. Some people need a little bit of time to process what is going to be discussed at the meeting and a little bit of time to review the materials. And it's not just neurodivergent people. It depends on your personality, your learning style. So this is great for everybody. Let's try to give advance notice of a meeting and provide the materials ahead of time. Then if there is a change, let's try to communicate that as soon as possible. For example, an autistic person can become quite anxious and dysregulated if something changes all of a sudden and it's not part of their original thinking for that day or week. So let's be mindful of that and be inclusive by providing as much notice as possible. Then let's think about how we summarize the outcomes of something. So a meeting or a piece of work that was completed. Let's provide clear written or audio summaries. So bullet points on the tasks that came out or bullet points on the feedback that was required. Sometimes people can easily digest this if it's in a quick video or a voice note. We have a plethora of technology out there now. Let's not constrain ourselves to an email format with chunky text. We have options, so let's use them. And finally, let's think about how we are verbally communicating and how we are receiving communications. Neurodivergent people are often dealing with lots of things in their brain that you cannot see and you won't necessarily predict. So they may be anxious or dysregulated or distracted by this thing over there, or feeling hypervigilant about the fact that there's lots of mess around or the office is noisy. So let's be mindful and sensitive of that. Let's try to communicate clearly, slowly, breaking things down, asking for confirmation that the thing has been understood and it's very clear what you expect the person to do next. And if greeted with a sharper tone or a rushed tone, let's not assume that the person is stressed or non-conforming to the business culture. Let's try and dive into that a bit deeper and figure out if there is something that we can help them with to understand more easily, or to help them with something that's going on that's a competing priority that's happening in their day. Now let's think about task management. So let's provide flexibility in terms of the expected due dates for things, the hours that people work, or their need to take breaks. If we are constraining people to meet really strict deadlines, this can cause anxiety and can cause cognitive overload and may result in the task not getting done or getting done to a poor standard. So let's be considerate of this. If it does not impact a client engagement or a specific deadline, let's try to be flexible where we can. Meet up with that person for regular review points to understand how they're getting through the tasks. And when we are planning the deadline dates for things, let's account for the fact that there may be extra time needed. So let's plan a little bit of extra time at the end should they require support or a little bit longer to complete. Then let's think about the variety of tasks. So certain neurotypes, such as ADHD, for example, will require a high variety of tasks to stay engaged. And this really applies to anybody. I think a lot of people like to have variety, to keep their work days slightly different. So let's really think about that and see if we can provide varied tasks whilst also providing the person the tools to complete the variety of tasks. For example, if you give 10 tasks to a person, it can be overwhelming. It's positive because it's varied, but there's actually quite a lot to get done. So let's try and provide them with task management software where they can create a checklist of the things that they need to do. They can chunk different times of the day when they're going to approach a different task, using things such as the Pomodoro technique, where you complete, let's say, 50 minutes of work and then a 10-minute break. Provides that flexibility to allow them to complete to a good standard, take a step back, and then move on to a different task. Then let's think about how the tasks are prioritized. So again, this works for everybody, but it really helps a neurodivergent person to have clear priorities on things. If they have the 10 tasks which we spoke of, and they're not sure where to start, then this can cause a bit of an overload to the brain because they're questioning, am I doing the right thing? Is this the first one that's due? So let's be really supportive and helpful with those check-ins to prioritize what is the most important thing. So if something does get in the way, if there is a day where they need a bit more flexibility to work of an evening, let's say, and there's no one around, let's make sure that they have clear instruction on what they need to achieve in which priority order. There's a wealth of technology out there that can really help when it comes to reasonable accommodations. So things like providing different alternatives to absorbing information or providing information. So assisted tools like a scanning pen that can hear what's going on in the meeting and convert it into text, or Grammarly, which can help a dyslexic person, for example, ensure that their long form text has the right grammar and punctuation. Actually built into Windows, if you press Windows H, you can do speech to text, which is a great way for somebody that has advanced oral skills, like a dyslexic person, to be able to download their thoughts into a text format and then use AI to create the end result, the slide or the bullet points or whatever it needs to be. So let's really think about the assistive technology that we can utilize as part of our tool set and actually offer them as a standard to people. People do not need high barriers to entry to access these tools. Let's try to offer what we can as a standard, so people just simply ask and gain that license. Then there's things that they can use at their desk, like fidget toys or sensory items. If they feel like, as a person, it helps to regulate and helps them to concentrate to have a furry blanket, then let's be flexible and allow them to have this, or a fidget toy on the desk. These fidget toys can help ADHD people, autistic people, as can the blanket. It just allows them to regulate, to self-stimulate, and to be highly productive in that moment. Then think about things like visual formatting software like mind maps, or meeting recordings that can output visual bullet points, different ways of conveying information using technologies to help us record it in different formats. And finally, let's not forget the social elements that inherently come with being part of a business. Culture is a great thing. Getting people together is a great thing, but we must be mindful of different people's needs in those environments or in those situations. For example, let's say you're hosting a company event. This is a great thing to do, but you could think about maybe making one day compulsory, one day optional, so that people that find it quite energy consuming to be in that social situation can have the option to take some downtime, or provide quiet spaces and clear times for breaking for people that are in long, heavy meetings in these situations. It would just help them to regulate and put their best foot forwards. Also, things like internal meetings over Microsoft Teams. Let's think about the usage of camera. Now, I'm a big advocate for people being on camera. I think it conveys body language and allows to build connections and relationships. But not everybody finds this comfortable. So perhaps you can think about which meetings the camera needs to be compulsory for, and others where people can take a break from it and turn their camera off, just so that they're not consistently trying to make eye contact, look at people directly and communicate according to social norms, because this can be quite, again, energy consuming, and it can be a masking behavior that people will struggle to do consistently over and over within a short time period. Then things like social networks and support. Within our organizations, do we have a diversity and inclusion program which has clear initiatives and goals, which is informed by the people within our organization that live and breathe their neurodivergence or disability or whatever else it is that you're including in that program? Let's make sure it's driven by people, it's person-centered. Let's think about providing people with buddies when they enter the business, or mentors to help them through their learning and development. And this really, in my opinion, should be someone separate from their line manager, whom they are working with anyway to set targets. This should be more of an informal relationship where they feel safe to share and to discuss anything that they may be finding challenging. Then let's think about actually before they've joined the organisation and the interview process. Does that person require support at the interview? And traditionally, we think about this in terms of disabilities, for example, a deaf person that requires sign language. But actually, let's think about it more broadly. Maybe a person does require a support to be with them to help reduce any anxieties or stress that can come with such a huge deal like a job interview. Or maybe they may require an interview that is off camera and partly on camera. Or if they're provided a test to complete, maybe they need a bit more time to do the test, or accommodations when it comes to the formatting of the test and the instructions, that sort of thing. Then, of course, we've got the ability to train all of our people on neurodivergence. So think about it in two ways. What training are we providing to our line managers and our leadership team? And what training are we providing to our people? We want training to be there to build awareness, make people feel safe and included. We also want training to enable leaders and line managers to be able to look out for their individuals and protect their interests and understand how to spot when accommodations are needed.